Have you ever stopped to consider how interconnected our world truly is? How seemingly unrelated aspects could be tied together in ways we don't always recognize? It's a sobering truth that we have already crossed a number of tipping points, not helped by the unprecedented rise in carbon dioxide over the past 100 years, and we are pushing our climate into new states, paving the way to a rapid and significantly severe phenomenon known as abrupt climate change. Welcome to World Insight, where we unpack the complex web of connections that mold our world. In today's episode, we're unraveling this terrifying concept of abrupt climate change, a swift shift in our planet's climate system that could transpire within a scant few decades or even years. It's not just a climatic issue, but also one that influences and is influenced by politics, geopolitics, and even conflicts and wars. Consider the Younger Dryas event. This was a sudden and dramatic return to glacial conditions at the end of the last ice age, underlining severity of climate change and its potential to cause the planet's temperature to plummet within a decade. It's important to note that this was not a one-off event. Rather, it's a recurring phenomenon in Earth's history, signifying that drastic climate changes have happened before and can happen again. This scenario were to repeat, we could see ecosystems collapse, extreme weather events become the norm, and species vanish at an alarming rate. Moreover, abrupt climate change can even lead to conflicts and wars, as people are forced to migrate quickly due to changing environmental conditions and fight over scarce resources. In some regions, workers are already having to abandon working during the day due to intense heat, resorting to working at night when it's cooler. In places like Arizona, extreme heat has prompted the implementation of new guidelines to protect workers. It sounds like something straight out of a dystopian novel, doesn't it? Yet, it's a reality that scientists are gravely concerned about. Understanding these interconnections and their implications is crucial, hence the importance of staying informed and taking action. That's where we step in. If you're intrigued by topics like these and want to stay informed about the state of our world, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Having given you a glimpse of how interconnected and occasionally contentious our world is, join us as we delve deeper into these fascinating subjects. Before we dive into the chilling realities facing the polar bears, let's sink into another part of our planet that's absorbing the brunt of climate change. Our oceans. They're not just getting warmer, they're also becoming more acidic. And that's a big problem. The ocean absorbs about a quarter of the CO2 we release into the atmosphere every year. The more CO2 the ocean absorbs, the more acidic it becomes. This phenomenon, known as ocean acidification, is like osteoporosis of the sea. It weakens marine creatures that rely on calcium carbonate to build their shells and skeletons, like corals and shellfish. Now, let's add another layer to this: ocean warming. The heat trapped by the greenhouse gases we emit is absorbed by our oceans, leading to a rise in sea surface temperatures. This causes coral reefs, the rainforests of the sea, to bleach and eventually die. These reefs are biodiversity hotspots, providing shelter to a quarter of all marine species. Their loss would be catastrophic, disrupting food chains and economies dependent on fishing and tourism. Oceans play a critical role in regulating the Earth's climate. They absorb excess heat and carbon dioxide, acting like a giant sponge. But as they warm and acidify, their ability to perform these crucial functions diminishes. The consequences: more extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and disrupted marine ecosystems. In essence, our oceans are in trouble, and that means we're in trouble too. As we move on to the story of the polar bears, remember this: the plight of our oceans and the Arctic are two sides of the same coin, both victims and indicators of the abrupt climate change. Imagine losing your home, not because of a fire or a flood, but because it simply melts away. This is the reality for the polar bears. They are the most immediate and heartbreaking victims of abrupt climate change. Their icy home, the Arctic, is warming twice as fast as the rest of our planet. As the ice retreats, polar bears struggle to survive. They are expert swimmers, but without ice they are like fish out of water, struggling to hunt and feed. The Arctic is not just their home, but also their hunting ground. They rely on sea ice to catch their primary food, seals, but as the ice melts away, so does their chance of survival. The situation is dire. Some estimates suggest that by the middle of this century, if the ice-free periods continue to lengthen, 2/3 of the world's polar bears could disappear. Their plight is a stark reminder of the consequences of our actions. The melting ice isn't just a polar bear problem, it's a global problem. The loss of sea ice contributes to global warming, creating a feedback loop that accelerates climate change. As we bear witness to the suffering of these majestic creatures, we begin to comprehend the severity of abrupt climate change. There's a ticking time bomb in the Arctic, and it's not what you might think. It's not just the melting ice that's a cause for concern. There's something else lurking beneath the surface: methane hydrates. These are essentially molecules of methane gas trapped within a lattice of ice. They are found in large quantities under the Arctic permafrost and beneath the ocean floor. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, about 25 times more effective at trapping heat than carbon dioxide over a 100-year period. As the Arctic warms and the permafrost thaws, these hydrates begin to destabilize, releasing the trapped methane into the atmosphere. This methane, in turn, exacerbates global warming, creating a dangerous feedback loop. Imagine, if you will, bubbles rising from the Arctic ice. These are pockets of methane gas. Now picture a flame being held to these bubbles and watch as they ignite. This is the reality of the methane time bomb. The release of this potent gas from the Arctic could drastically accelerate global warming, making the situation far more critical than we ever imagined. This methane time bomb is not just a threat, it's a stark warning of the dangers lurking beneath the surface, waiting to explode if we don't take action now. The evidence of abrupt climate change isn't something of the distant future. It's happening right now. So what does the latest research tell us about this imminent threat? Let's take a look at the most recent findings from the past 2 years, 2023 and 2024. In 2023, a study from the Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii made headlines. It reported a significant increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide levels, the highest ever recorded in human history. The data, sourced from ice cores in Antarctica, showed a startling upward trend, hinting at the rapid pace of climate change. Meanwhile, in the same year, scientists from the 2 Degrees Institute, a non-profit organization dedicated to raising awareness about climate change, reported alarming temperature variations. These fluctuations, they warned, could lead to unpredictable and extreme weather patterns, a characteristic feature of abrupt climate change. Moving on to 2024, the picture hasn't improved. According to data from CO2levels.org, the atmospheric CO2 levels have continued to rise at an alarming rate. The temperature variations reported in the previous year have not only persisted, but also intensified, further reinforcing the threat of abrupt climate change. These studies and their findings are not isolated instances. They are corroborated by numerous other researches conducted globally. The consensus among the scientific community is clear. Abrupt climate change is not a hypothetical scenario. It's a reality we are living in. The graphs and charts from these studies might seem abstract, perhaps even distant, but they are far from it. They are tangible indicators of the changes happening in our world, changes that are affecting our environment, our wildlife, and ultimately us. These findings are not just numbers and graphs, they are a stark reminder of our rapidly changing world. The question isn't whether we are experiencing abrupt climate change, the question is, how severe will its impacts be? The evidence is clear and it's undeniable. We are indeed in the midst of abrupt climate change. The rising CO2 levels, the melting ice caps, the increasingly erratic weather patterns, all these point to a single, sobering truth. The future implications of this abrupt shift in our climate are far-reaching and potentially catastrophic. We're looking at a world where severe weather events become the norm, not the exception. Imagine cities swallowed by the sea, crops failing on a massive scale, and natural habitats disappearing, leading to the extinction of countless species. We're also facing a future where water scarcity becomes a pressing issue. As glaciers shrink and rivers dry up, access to fresh water could become a luxury for many. And let's not forget the inevitable human cost, the displacement of people, the rise in diseases, and the strain on our global economy. But here's the thing. While the situation is indeed dire, it's not hopeless. We can mitigate the worst effects of abrupt climate change if we act now. The future might look grim, but it's not all doom and gloom. We have the knowledge, the technology, and the will to make a difference. The next chapters will explore these possibilities. Let's delve into the silver lining amidst this storm. Every crisis presents an opportunity, and the crisis of abrupt climate change presents an urgent one. As we traverse this alarming era of environmental turmoil, businesses are presented with a pressing occasion to drastically alter their strategies, adapt swiftly, and potentially profit in the process. Picture a world where every business of all sizes are at the forefront of the necessary change, not contributing to the dilemma. A world where corporations utilize their resources and influence to push forward urgent, sustainable practices. This isn't a fantasy, but a very imminent reality, a ray of hope in the storm of climate change. Numerous companies are already seizing this time-sensitive opportunity. They're innovating, creating products and services to dramatically reduce carbon emissions and promote sustainable living. They're breaking free from fossil fuels, with renewable energy firms exploring the untapped power of sun, wind, and waves, and tech companies developing intelligent appliances that optimize energy use. The private sector is playing a pivotal role in our race against time to counteract abrupt climate change. This immediate shift towards sustainability isn't only beneficial for the planet, but for business as well. Consumers are actively seeking eco-friendly products and services, rewarding companies that prioritize urgent sustainability with their loyalty and their dollars. In essence, businesses that are slow to adapt to this fast-paced reality risk becoming obsolete. But it's about more than just products and services. Companies are revamping their operations, slashing waste, and enhancing energy efficiency. They're making significant investments in green technologies, offsetting their carbon emissions, and setting ambitious short-term targets for sustainability. This is causing a domino effect, urging other businesses and even entire industries to act. In this way, the private sector is becoming a potent force for immediate change, propelling us towards a more sustainable future at an accelerated pace. And this isn't only beneficial for the planet and consumers, but for the businesses themselves. As they adapt urgently and innovate, they're opening up new markets, creating jobs, and building a brand that resonates with today's eco-conscious consumers. While the private sector is stepping up, the same cannot be said for our governments. Despite the mounting evidence and public outcry, governments around the world have been largely ineffective in addressing climate change. Apathy, denial, and short-term political gains have often overshadowed the urgency of the issue, leaving a gaping void in the global response to this existential threat. From failing to meet international emission targets to subsidizing fossil fuels, governments have largely been on the wrong side of the climate equation. In some instances, environmental policies have even been rolled back in the name of economic growth, exacerbating the problem rather than mitigating it. This isn't to say that all governments are inactive. Some have taken bold steps, but these are exceptions rather than the rule. Even where progress is made, it often falls short of the scale and speed required to avert the worst impacts of abrupt climate change. The bottom line is, governments have a crucial role to play, but they have yet to step up to the plate. Their collective failure to act decisively and urgently is a major stumbling block in the fight against climate change. The responsibility of saving our planet doesn't lie solely with governments or businesses. It lies with all of us. We all possess the power to bring about crucial change. United, we can radically alter our course. The urgency to halt the use of fossil fuels is immediate, a goal we need to reach within just a few years. Every small step we take, from ditching single-use plastics to selecting eco-friendly food alternatives, plays a part in this global mission. We need to talk about energy. Instead of coal, let's opt for gas, a temporary solution that is less harmful to the planet. Let us consider nuclear power as another temporary solution to counteract the harshest effects of abrupt climate change. By consciously choosing these alternatives, we not only trim down our global carbon emissions significantly, the dire need for change also demands us to influence the bigger picture. If we vote with our money and back businesses that uphold these changes, we put forth a powerful statement about the kind of world we want. In an ideal world, the government would not be hoping for Star Trek solutions to solve global warming, but instead, we often find them just kicking the can down the road, delaying the urgent changes required to avert a climate catastrophe. We need to hold these institutions accountable, advocating for parties and policies that protect our planet. The more we integrate these actions into our lives, the more they become a part of our daily routine. And collectively, our lifestyle modifications can make a substantial impact. Each one of us has a part to play, and it's upon us to unleash potential for a brighter, greener future. Remember, the fight against abrupt climate change starts, and it starts with you. So, like this video, join our channel and let's bring about the change we so desperately need.